Good afternoon, everyone. We're going to call the December 4th Board of Adjustment to order. First, let me announce the decision of the board are considered final. Is there anyone agree by the decision of the board they may appeal to circuit court within 15 days of the board's decision? Any questions regarding the board's discussion and decisions, you will defer to Planning Department for information. All right, first let's go through kind of the basic rules. And if I will, I'd ask everyone to turn your electronic devices either to silent or off so we don't have a disturbance. If you've got any handouts for the board, if you'll give them to staff now so that we don't have to stop and try to disseminate those. This is looks like a very brief agenda today, so it should be very quick. As we proceed, there's 4 people that can speak in favor of an application and 4 against, 5-minute time limit for each. And they'll give you a 1-minute warning as your time is due to expire. After that, the applicant will get a 2-minute rebuttal. And when you come to the podium, you give your name and address for the record. And I think that's the key points to call. With that, I'll call for roll. Mr. Davis. Here. Mr. Golden. Here. Mr. Metcalf. Here. Mr. Millen. Here. Mr. Carroll. Here. Mr. Morris.
Here.
Mr. Atchison as supernumerary, and then I'm William Guess. We have all 7 voting members here. It takes 5 to affirm a motion, either in support or in denial of an application. With that, we'll proceed. We have the quorum, and I'll entertain a motion to adopt the agenda.
So moved, Mr. Chair.
Have a motion to adopt the agenda. Do I have a second? Second. I have a second. Any further discussion? All those in favor of the motion say aye. Aye. Anyone opposed? Motion carries. All right. Starting with application 6549 regarding 720 Museum Drive. If the applicant will come to the podium, please. Your name and address, sir. I'm not sure your mic's on.
Stephen Harvey, I'm with the firm McDowell, Knight, Rader, and Sledge. I'm the attorney for the applicant. My address is 11 North Water Street, 13th floor, Mobile, Alabama.
Okay. And your application is for planned development west of Interstate 65. That's 4.33 acres and zoned R1, and it's within the village of Spring Hill Overlay. I understand a minimum of 10 acres west of Interstate 65 is a requirement. And do you have anything that you would like to tell the board or?
Well, we would just like a holdover for several months, frankly, till say April, if that's possible.
Okay. What's the time limit for holdovers usually?
April, please.
It'd be a holdover until the April 1st meeting.
Okay. All right. The applicant has requested a holdover until April 1st meeting. Any questions of the board?
Yes, Mr. Chair.
Yes.
Stephen, just curious, if y'all made the application now, what has changed now to ask for such a long extension?
We just want to look at our design and meet with our architect and look at some things during this time.
Can you?
We think
I know
it may take that long to get that.
I know the plans aren't even close, but what is the general idea as far as a plan goes for this property?
What is the what?
The general idea of
an apartment complex.
Okay,
But it's going to be,
that's all I want to know. Thank you.
all right.
Okay. Any further questions of the applicant? Okay. Just for consideration, was there anyone in the audience either in support or opposition for this application? All right. We have none for the record. Okay. Thank you.
Thank you.
The applicant has requested a holdover till the April 1st meeting. And with no further discussion, Chair entertain a motion.
I'll make a motion to hold over the application until the April meeting.
Okay, do I have a
Next
second?
year.
Second. Have a second? Any further discussion? All those in favor of the motion say aye.
Aye.
Anyone opposed? Motion carries. All right, let's go to our next application, which is 6560 regarding 453 Dolphin Street. Good afternoon.
Good afternoon. Douglas Curley, 10 Wisteria Avenue.
Okay, and your application is for a new gallery with columns that are not round and metal and do not meet the base or have a base or capital that meet the T-5.1 sub-district downtown development district requirements. Anyway, if you want to proceed with your,
I had not realized until I started working on an iron gallery that the design guidelines required the second floor columns to be round, when Mobile has a tradition of having both round columns on the second floor iron galleries and also what I call a flat paneled column, which is just cast iron work between two iron bars. And I just wanted to kind of get this changed, or at least for this project, maybe for in the future. I don't know. So.
okay. Questions of the board for the applicant? All right. Do we have anyone in the audience that was in support of the application? Anyone in opposition today? All right. Mr. Millings, you were quite involved in the downtown development district. Do you remember any of the discussion on this?
Yeah, well, I have a couple comments on this. One, I would say, I don't think the intention of the downtown development district was to forbid projects like this. I think that was a detail that was probably overlooked at the time, and I think is in the process of being corrected. I'd go further to say, just specifically on this application, I do know the owner, and I think that, he has a history of doing extremely good work, and I think is, got, his intentions are to do things within the guidelines and the fabric of downtown, and I know Douglas has a reputation of the same, so I'm extremely comfortable with what they're proposing.
Yeah, and just as another note, I had done two galleries already before this thing, or maybe three. One North Royal, 60 South Conception Street, have round columns on the bottom and then flat on the top. So they had been, but they were done a couple of years before this guideline was adopted.
Okay, thank you. Once again, any other questions of the board or comments? All right, I guess that'll conclude our public hearing on this application. Let me see if there's anything else we need to. Is it the lower level or the top?
The variance is requested only for the upper level. The lower level is proposed to have compliant round columns.
Okay, so it was on the original drawings. Okay. With that, Chair, entertain a motion.
Mr. Chair, I'll make a motion that we approve it, that the variance will not be contrary to the public interest. I think special condition does exist, and low enforcement provision will result in unnecessary hardship in that. I think that the downtown development code was set up to add consistency and a layer of quality, and I do think that, this is something that does fit within that, and that it was an unforeseen hardship that is currently being corrected, and spirit of the chapter shall be observed and substantial justice done to the applicant and the surrounding neighborhood by granting the variance.
Okay,
Second.
have a second. Any further discussion? All those in favor of the motion say aye.
Aye.
Anyone opposed? Okay, motion carries. Thank you. All right, we're on application 6561 regarding 3768 Spring Hill Avenue and 851 Knowles Street.
Yes, thank you. Reverend Brian Shields, 3709 Kimberly Circle, and I serve as pastor of St. Ignatius Church, and we are applying for an exception to build a cemetery there. And just a little background, a few years ago, we had come before the city council for a zoning change to sell property to a business interest. There was a lot of opposition on the part of the community, and so that proposal was withdrawn. But at the city council meeting, Mr. C.J. Small asked one of the residents, Mrs. Barbara Smith, he said, well, what would you think about a cemetery there? And we had not really thought too much about a cemetery, but after he said it, quite a number of people came up to me and said, well, that would be a wonderful use of that property, and there's been a lot of excitement about having a place to bury the dead with respect and dignity. And so we worked with Mr. Ben Cummings as an architect and Mr. Eric Adams with Clark Gear and Latham to develop a plan that you've got before you for the cemetery. And they met with city staff to get their recommendations, and we want to comply with the recommendations of the staff to make it a very pleasing and beautiful area. One of the suggestions they made was that we meet with the community before, although they said it was not legally required, but they recommended it. We thought it was a good idea. So a month ago, we held an open meeting. We had about 150 people from the neighborhood and the parish come. We stayed for an hour and answered all questions that they had as best we could. But then later, Mr. Yelling, who's with the Sandtown Action Group, called me last Monday or emailed me and said they still had some questions and wanted to meet. So we agreed to meet again last Thursday and had a meeting set up. But they called me a little before the meeting and said they didn't want to meet. And then Friday afternoon, Mrs. Cochran sent an email, which you have a copy of, and so they had asked Mrs. Cochran to serve as their counsel. And so over the weekend, I had a chance to consider that, and then this morning to talk with Mrs. Cochran. And since she has just had a chance to get on board with this and has not had a chance to meet with the neighbors, and if they do have still more concerns, we certainly want to hear them and to try to dialogue with them. And so at the request of Mrs. Cochran, I'm also asking for a holdover until the February meeting.
Okay. Any questions of the board for the applicant?
Yes, Mr. Chairman.
Yes.
Have y'all made application to the state for this?
No, we have not yet.
Okay.
We were waiting to get permission here, and we have a re-subdivision proposal before the Planning Commission also.
All right, thank you.
Okay. Any further questions? Okay. Do we have anyone in the audience that, he's asked for a holdover, but do we have anyone in support that has anything to say at the moment? Okay. Opposition? If you have a seat, sir.
Mhm.
Good afternoon. Name and address.
Good evening, gentlemen. My name is Melvin Jackson. I live at 3802 and a half Spring Hill Avenue. It is the property. I represent two other properties that are next adjacent to this property, to the west. We had no idea that, and we just recently learned that they asked for a further extension. We agreed and to that, but I have to take some exception to some of the things that were said. It's not that we did not want to speak with Bryce Shields. We've already had one conversation with them. We were asking for the conversation to be with the people that are actually making this application, the Monsignor, and or someone that is in the Archdiocese. We've been under constant and current developmental pressures in our community. We are small, but we have been here for some time. This community is 184 years old. They just put the signs up that this community was created in 1848 by one of my great ancestors. I am one of those people that are there. We've asked for good stewards in our community. And what we got was the accusation that our homes didn't look the part. No wonder we couldn't get the type of, square footage, the price per square foot, that homes within 100 yards of our homes, and these are very expensive homes, but they aren't creating any more new land. And now you want to put a cemetery next to our homes. We kind of wanted to end this here. You want to put, it's already one cemetery behind us. Now you want to put one next to us. And you never talked to us. They never had a conversation. And the other day, that was Thursday, they've already, you could have helped, we could have helped you to plan this. So I don't know how long I have here. I am in agreement with our attorney, and we will, push this out until February, but we just want you guys to know that there are elderly in our community that feel pressured by the developers. Their 86-year-old woman who has a sign right next to her home that no one else can see except for her when she walks out of her door, and it says, "No trespassing. This means you." That's intimidation. Those types of signs around Spring Hill, where we live, and Sandtown, again, the oldest historical Black community there is. Right next to this property is the church and the grounds where the school used to be, right at Spring Hill and Knowles Street. Historical. It has been in operation since 1870, burned to the ground, rebuilt by those people in this community. And every member on Knowles Street on the west side, they will have their back against St. Ignatius's new cemetery. This is all of those properties. We may be cash poor, but we're land rich, and they're very proud. And we need our leaders in this community to help us. We cannot fight the archdiocese and these developers, the type of money that they are spending in our small community.
You got a minute. Go ahead.
I just want to thank you all for hearing me out today. I don't want to go over my time limit, but thank you.
Any questions?
Oh, yeah,
Yes.
yes, Mr. Chairman.
Yes, please.
The property is currently owned by, it's owned by the church.
Who said, I don't, who owns that? You said the church?
When was that acquired? I mean,
How was it acquired? The property belonged to Miss Ernestine Allen, who to her dying day said that she never wanted to sell her property. What we last learned about this property by Brosh Shields was that it was donated. It was never donated, and it was never in her
shaking
name.
his head no.
I know, he's shaking his head no, but it was him that said it was donated to his parishioners. And they found out about it, and they were up in arms. Of course, later on, it was corrected, and they said that it was done by Don Davis. I'm sorry, not Don Davis, but Red Noonan, and Red Noonan appointed Don Davis. And the name on the property, on the deed that switches it over is hers by his. And we know that she never wanted to sell her property. Okay.
You answered my question, but hold on. So can you tell me the root of why this proposed cemetery would be negative? Because you certainly can't ask for a quieter neighbor.
Yeah, that's what he said. And I want to address this again. It was Barbara Smith that said that, what he said. That was not all of us. Now, if you look it up, you'll see that the property values go down. I think they said $17.64 per square foot for properties adjacent to cemeteries. They take longer to sell, and the terms on them are much easier to get. That the owners of the property sell for a lot less because they're on the market so long because they're next to cemeteries.
And you're quoting what?
That's from the internet. That was you can find that out on any internet. I think it was.
Yeah.
It wasn't. I think it was the Realtors, Realtor.com or something like that, and they were speaking specifically about homes adjacent to cemeteries. Now that's just one side, but we're talking about having these homes that the rear and the west eastern side of these homes will be, and on the Knowles Street side, all of those homes will have their back.
You answered my question. Thank you.
Thank you.
Hold on, Mr.
Yes,
Morris?
sir.
Yeah.
What's your name again, sir?
My name is Melvin Jackson. My father was Walter Jackson, and the ancestor I was talking about, his name was Gilbert Fields. He was a escaped slave that liberated himself, found himself here in Mobile. He was protected by Indians that were here in the city. He eventually bought property before the Civil War and held his property until after, and was able to offer property for a cemetery, for the church next to this, and for a school that they built on that property to educate the people that were there. This is significant in our community, as you well know, that from that point until this, it has been a member of his family on that property. I'm currently the river, what they call, I'm nothing if not a river to my people. I am currently the caretaker of that land.
Was that Walter Jackson, police officer?
Yes, sir.
Okay, another question, you say the land was purchased back in 1848?
No, their existence has been since 1848. The property was purchased in the 50s, 1850s, and it was given over to the church in the 1870s. The church's piece was given to it in the 1870s.
Okay, did I hear you state that you all were not properly informed about the transaction about to take place, or the application for the cemetery?
Oh, well, I don't know if I said that, but I have a piece of.
Okay. Where you are?
You're-
I'm asking, where you?
Residential.
Residential.
No. I have a notification for a meeting on the 13th that was postmarked on the 15th, and I have that. That's how we usually get notified about issues.
Can legal answer that? Was any notification sent out?
Yes, he was, a notification, his name and address was provided, and a notification was sent from the city. Richard Jackson, care of Gary Dwayne Jackson, 3802 and a half Spring Hill Avenue.
Yes, that's my brother.
Okay, that notice was mailed.
Okay.
Yes, but I'm not saying it wasn't mailed. I received it. It was just, it was postmarked on the 15th for a meeting on the 13th that none of us got an opportunity
Are you
to
talking
attend.
about this meeting, or are you talking
That
about
would've-
the neighborhood meeting?
No, I don't know which one it was. I don't actually have it with me, but I'll certainly provide it to you.
I say
because it's
legal.
still-
The notice for
What
this
date did that
meeting would
notice
have
go out?
been mailed 15 days prior to now, at least.
What day did it go out?
Was there a meeting on the 13th then? Okay.
I don't have internet connection, so I can't tell you the day it went out.
No, the notice is my understanding that we're talking about, or to let you know
Right.
that we're having this meeting.
They've been diligent in the way that they have contacted us. I don't have I'm not looking for a technicality. I'm looking for a solution. Our community is looking for a solution. We would welcome the opportunity to work with St. Ignatius. We have members of their parish in our group in opposition to them. They would not, it's as though we don't exist or they want us to go away.
I have another question for you.
Yes, sir.
This is, maybe I can ask legal, is this an expansion? Because I understood that there was a cemetery already in existence there, am I right? What?
Yes, sir. There is a cemetery in existence. It is under separate ownership, just to the north. If you look on the vicinity map that's up behind you, you see the word site, and just north of it is this whole property here is a cemetery.
The name of
But it's a
The name of it is Rising Suns Cemetery. It was one of the pieces that were community donated. Now, where that site is located, it is only affecting 2 actual homes that it touches, and it is back so that you cannot see it from either street. You can't see it from Knowles Street, and you can't see it from Spring Hill Avenue. It's important that we know what that is because that site is, in our opinion, which has been in existence since 1848. It was only purchased and rededicated in the 1870s. That's another one of our, that we are trying to get historical significance for that site. Even before there were graves dug and buried there, we know that slaves were put in there. And we should absolutely look into this site. We don't even know if on this piece of property that he's looking at, it's graves on that. And he doesn't know. We don't want those people disturbed yet again.
I have another question too.
Yes, sir.
In regards to how many of the residents are going to be, I'm saying that's already there, their property is going to be affected by this new site.
Oh, all of the Knoll Street East residents, as you can see, if you look back on the Knoll Street side, all of those residents will be affected. But here's why they'll be affected. If you look at the contours map on here, that property drops 10 feet every, 6 to 8 feet? It drops. And so the reason that they decided that the veterinarian clinic could not go through there was because they couldn't do anything about the water. Now, on the west, that's my brother, myself, and my grandparents' air property in the back. All of that water flows to the left. I can tell you, I can prove that this is detrimental to those properties. The house just adjacent to St. Ignatius, the eastern wall of the first piece is the one that went down because water has been going under it all this time. The house right behind it, which St. Ignatius bought, okay, guess which wall is down? On the eastern side, the wall is down. And my grandmother's house, which was on that, which is what they say is vacated, it's not vacated. Her property was there. The water flowed so heavily into it that the wall came down and eventually the entire house went down. Our family has done their best on this.
I'm going to get back to the
Yeah, Mr. Chairman,
order.
I don't want to.
Oh, Mr. Morris, I want
Oh,
to
I'm
make sure
sorry.
he's finished.
Go ahead, I'm done.
Okay, now I have a question. You mentioned February. Why did you say February? Hold over till February.
No, that was what our attorney and Brush Shields agreed on.
Okay.
I don't know why February. This is something we need to stop immediately. They have not taken care of this piece of property at all. Nothing.
I'm just curious where February
I
came
understand.
from. Okay.
Mr. Chairman, if I
Yes.
may, to answer Mr. Morris's question, notices from the city regarding this application were mailed on November 15th. That would be completely independent of any correspondence that may have been sent by the applicant. You had asked about the February. February 5th is the meeting date to which the applicant has requested this be held over.
Mr. Metcalf?
Staff, I've been involved in one cemetery, but sale of a property for a cemetery, but I'm assuming that although that you'll have roads, but what covers the cemetery, a cemetery is grass typically. So I'm curious, it's an engineering question, but I'm curious for a development like this, from an city engineering standpoint, I would feel that all the drainage would all have to be addressed, or as if it were buildings. I'm not sure.
Yes.
And the reason I'm asking that is for your benefit too.
Yes.
Because depending on the answer to that question, those issues of drainage might be addressed in the development of the property.
Okay, we went through this once with the veterinarian clinic. There was no.
Well, actually, sir, that
Oh,
was
no,
the question.
I know.
That was the question for the staff.
Yeah, we'll stay with the question then.
Yeah.
Engineering can better answer the question, but a site this site, regardless if it is being developed as a cemetery, a veterinary clinic, it's going to go through the same permitting review process. This is just one of the steps that has to be addressed before they even get to that
But on
point.
the engineering side, existing conditions are, this is a question, existing conditions are addressed. You got engineering over there?
Yes.
On the microphone itself.
Yes, so once we get a site plan, we see the pre-development conditions and the post-development conditions. Everything that they have the road that is impervious, anything that will be impervious, they will have to have detention and collected and released as pre-development conditions. So they will have to meet that.
So primarily roads and anything that's non-pervious.
Correct. Yes.
All right, thank you.
Okay, sir, we got to conclude because.
Yeah, they are calling me too.
But I want to, hold on, I want to give everyone else here a chance for questions if they have any. All right.
I'd like to say I'm only speaking as
We appreciate you.
right. I'm not speaking for Sandtown Community Action Group. I'm only speaking as the neighbor that is next adjacent to this particular property. And if you want to take a look at the, what is it? Take a look at the, the topography. That map is on there as well.
Yes.
Is it right? You know,
All right.
but
I think we have some others that wanted to speak today as well.
Thank you, John.
Now, I want to emphasize the applicants asked for a holdover, so we're still going to have that discussion at the end, but we want to give everyone opportunity to speak.
Yes, sir.
So, thank you again. Good afternoon. Your name and address.
Good afternoon, thank you. My name is Dominic Jerome Broadus. My address is 6340 Alfredo Court, Jacksonville, Florida, but I own property at 412 McGregor, and I'm a member of the Sandtown community, and my mother lives at 3824 Mordecai Lane. My mother and my family have been a member of St. Ignatius since 1974. Or before I started going there in the second grade. I just want to reemphasize some of the things my cousin said, Mr. Jackson, is that, there is a cemetery called Rising Suns that's right behind this existing cemetery. My youngest brother is buried there. We don't know where his grave site is. One of the things that Mr. Jackson pointed out is that we don't know if this property to the north is affecting that. We haven't really sat down with Reverend Shields and the architects of this site. So a lot of the things like the drainage that we're concerned about, we're glad it's being held over, but we would like for Sandtown to be included in the discussions before further development or while the development is going on. Rising Suns, we've been working on that graveyard because we can't identify some of the bodies there. We don't know where they're buried. They have no markers. So we like to work with St. Ignatius on trying to not make a black-white cemetery, but maybe a cemetery and look at what's behind it also and work with them on developing something that's beneficial to the whole community. St. Ignatius as well as Sandtown. So I'm just happy for the holdover, and I hope that Reverend Shields and his organization will work with Sandtown before submitting the plan in February.
Any questions? Hold on.
I can appreciate what you are asking here and acknowledging the fact that Rising Sun Cemetery is not.
Correct.
That's why you
Hit
can't.
your mic.
That's why you can't determine who's in that cemetery because of the historic retrogression of that cemetery. If I'm hearing you correctly, and I think that's a good appeal, you're hearing St. Ignatius, you're hearing asking that they would work with Sand Hill to help modify what needs to be done in Sand Hill and that cemetery.
Rising Sun Cemetery. Yes, sir.
The Rising Sun Cemetery. If I'm hearing you correctly.
Yes.
And I think that's a good appeal because of the need. I think that you all should get with the pastor, the Monsignor, and I think they'll work with you. The Diocese of Mobile has been very, very open to inclusion.
Yeah.
So I think that if you would get with them, the resolution that Mr. Jackson is seeking, we can't do what he's asking to do without the process going through it, okay? So
And Mr. Jackson was speaking from as a property owner. Sandtown, we don't take a stand right now as for or against it. We're just asking that we be included in the process.
I understand, and that's a good appeal.
Okay.
I agree with that. I agree with that. It's needed.
All right, and yeah, that was the main thing. We want to try to identify some of those graves in the back and try to bring it up. And the other thing is that this new grave site, we want to know if it's going to be maintained in perpetuity, because Rising Suns is not, and you see the state that it's in. We don't want to see the same thing happen with this cemetery.
You're talking about perpetual care?
Yes, sir.
Okay.
Any other questions? All right.
Thank you.
All right, thank you. We got one more. Afternoon.
Hey, good afternoon. Wanda Cochran, 465 Dauphin Street. I really didn't come down here to say anything, but I guess since everybody's talking, I do want to introduce myself and tell you that my client is the Sandtown Community Action Group. They are an Alabama nonprofit corporation, and they are dedicated to the preservation of the history of this community, telling the story of this community, and hopefully developing this community and preserving it. I know that with a board like this, you're often faced with transactions, businesses, neighbors against a business, business against a neighbor. This case is a lot different. This case is two basically nonprofits. The Reverend is in the business of saving souls, and my client's in the business of trying to save the soul of the community. And so when you look at this plan with the eyes of an urbanist or the eyes of a citizen, what you see is lots of opportunity for agreement, lots of opportunity for progress, maybe even an opportunity to heal. So I'll see you in February, and I hope we'll all be holding hands. But if we're not holding hands, there will be evidence presented. And, your role as the Board of Adjustment is that of a fact finder. You are a quasi-judicial body. You function like a court. You take testimony. You review documents. You find facts. And so I hope it doesn't come to a fact finding. I hope that it works out. But I felt that given all the discussion, I wanted to just clarify my role and my client's role. Anyway, thank you for your attention. I really appreciate everything you guys do.
All right.
Mr. Chairman.
Yes.
Council, I really appreciate your vision. I really appreciate your optimism on this. Now, when we come back, I hope that you can take those elements and the charisma that you have with your clients, and we come back all holding hands. I think it can be achieved.
Hope so.
Mr. Morris?
Okay, my question is, I'm very concerned about how much of a Rising Sun community is being removed or abolished or whatever. because we know as a people, speaking of black people, this situation of this nature has happened across this country for a number of years, and we not being able to know where our ancestors are, because you build cities over them, you bury them over lakes, under lakes, and all that kind of situation. And going forward, and I'm talking about Mobile as a community, hopefully we can get better at this. And it's just the tip of the iceberg or something, I don't know. But it's out there, it's here, and it's present, and I'm glad to know that there are some people fighting for the cause, because we do have a history, and it's not a one-month history. It's American history.
And you know, we wouldn't have been having this discussion 30 years ago. There wouldn't have been 3 people of color on this commission. And the really good news is we were talking about our history. You know, history is not what happened. History is the story of what happened. And for too long, the stories of what has happened has been written by the victor in all of history. And so we know from the recent attention that's being given to Africatown, what a wonderful story for our community. And this community has a story too, and we should be proud of it. And it really shows an opportunity for progress. So I won't get off on that tangent, but it doesn't have to be a problem. You know, a lot of people that look like me say things like, oh my God, that happened so long ago. You know, can't we just get over that? You know, and it's like, I didn't do that. And it's true, I didn't do anything. But you know, when I bought a house, and I love to buy old houses, when I bought a house, it had a leak in the roof. I didn't do anything to cause that leak, but I had to fix it. And so the way I see going forward is coming together with conversation, and I've spoken with Father Shields, and I believe that he is in complete agreement, and we'll just do what we can do.
Okay. I think he'd like to come back. Thank you.
I have one question real
Yes.
quick. What are the boundaries of Sandtown?
I live just on the side of Spring Hill Avenue by the Spring Hill Cemetery on Mordecai, and it's been, and Bert probably has better information. Yeah, I'm going to let Bert, he knows the history of it better than I do.
The boundaries of Sandtown are not necessarily well defined. Back in the 1970s, the city undertook some community development planning work in the neighborhood, but it primarily focused on going from Mordecai, Shipes, Spring Hill Avenue, and then up Knowles in this general area. And in some interactions that planning has had with the Sandtown community, when we asked them to self-identify their boundaries, they indicated a much larger area that, you know, historically was part of the Sandtown community. And so in the research that I've done in probate court, which is going to be limited, you know, once you get back into the before 1870, I mean, there is clear evidence of Gilbert Fields having property there. He was the escaped slave who ended up in this community and has helped establish the community that's been here for such a long time. So it's not well determined, at least from what the city can tell, but the community certainly has its own thoughts of where the boundaries, at least historically, were.
Yes, sir.
Yes,
Give
just
you a couple minutes. And then
a couple of minutes, just real quickly. We did the St. Ignatius, on behalf of the Archdiocese of Mobile, acquired the property on May 1st, 2004. And I'm not sure what the price was at that point, but the deed was recorded and prepared by McFadden, Lyon, and Rouse. And so that's just a technical question to answer. But also, I did want to say that my being here and talking with Mrs. Cochran and agreeing to the holdover is, I think, evidence of our deep desire to enter into a deeper dialogue. We too have the same desire to find some peaceable and amicable way forward. I'm very interested in the Rising Sun Cemetery in the back. I believe that there's a lot of room for us to help with investigation and find out more about that. because our plan was to develop this in 2 phases. Phase 1 would be the southern part of the property. Rising Suns is on the northern part, and so we'd have, I think, a good bit of time to work together with the community to try to identify the graves that might be back there and to respect those. But I could see it being a win-win for the development of Rising Suns and this cemetery, which, by the way, it was mentioned that it's an all-Catholic cemetery. It will be owned by the Catholic Church, would be open to anyone who wished to be buried there. And I think it would be in that way a blessing to the community as well. So we look forward to working with Ms. Cochran and the group.
Father Shields, have you seen any evidence of graves on the property that the church owns?
No, we've walked the site probably 3 or 4 times over the last few years. I haven't seen any evidence back there, but I'm certainly open to it, certainly willing to do whatever is necessary to try to identify any graves. We certainly would respect those. So I don't know. I don't know how to find them. It's a very difficult situation.
Mr. Chairman?
Yes.
Father, if this proceeds, would the church, would diocese be willing to take over the upkeep and maintenance of that existing cemetery?
I believe that'd be a question to be addressed in the next 60 days with Ms. Cochran and the others.
Okay, because that may go a long way in,
Yes.
in relieving some of
Certainly not
some-
ruling that out as a possibility.
Right.
I don't know the exact bounds or extent of the cemetery, so I don't know what I would be, I can't make an agreement
No, I'm
right
not
here,
asking you to,
but
I just asked you. is
yes,
that
that
something
would
y'all
be a
consider?
very open question that could be a
Okay.
good way to move forward.
All right, thank you.
All right. I think that concludes our public hearing on this application. The applicant has requested a holdover till the February 5th meeting. And with that, Chair, entertain a motion.
Move that we hold over.
Okay, I have a motion to hold over. Do I have a second? I have a second. Any further discussion? All those in favor of the motion? Mr. Davis? Yes. All those in favor of the motion say aye. Aye. Anyone opposed? All right, thank you. We appreciate your time today. If you take time to come here, we'll still allow everyone to speak. All right, anything else for the agenda today? How about the schedule for the next? Did we already approve that?
Yes, sir.
Okay. Mr. Morris? We don't have a lot. That's usually, I try to be considerate.
Mr. Guest,
Yes.
I wasn't here last month, but y'all approved an application on Texas Street for a bus depot, charter bus, and that has been appealed to circuit court.
Yeah.
So I'll keep y'all apprised of that.
All right. All right. And Mr. Morris asked about the UDC codes on these. Yeah, so he had some questions, so I want to make sure we addressed. All right.
Okay.
With that, I'll say our meeting's adjourned. Thank you.